First thing today that I wanted to chit chat about actually is this reboot of The Crow. Now, if you don't know about this reboot, this thing has been basically like for the long and short of it, stuck in development hell for a long time. This reboot is a remake, a reimagining, if you will, of the 1994 classic film that we've been waiting for quite some time. And it's actually generated some buzz not that long ago. But the reason for that had everything to do with just kind of like how Bill Skarsgård looked. But this upcoming remake is actually being directed by Rupert Sanders, who did the Snow White and the Huntsman. I forget some other stuff he's done as well. I think, no, he did that. I think he did that Dracula Untold movie. I could be wrong on that one. But anyway, this movie actually promises to be grittier and a more violent reimagining of the original comic book story. If you've seen the trailer, that is 100% accurate. They did not shy away from violence in that trailer. I thought the trailer was actually really good. Bill Skarsgård did quite well. It looks like a well-directed, fun, violent as hell movie. I can't say that I'm against it at this point in time. That first imagery didn't work. It just didn't work. This did not look good. This time around, it looks to be a bit more crazy, and I'm happy with that. If you don't know what the story follows Eric Draven, who is now played by Bill Skarsgård, not Brendan Lee, a man brought back from the dead to avenge the murder of his fiancée, Shelley. This trailer does showcase a much darker tone, leading into the supernatural elements of the story, while also centering itself on the tragic love story that is at its core. It also is the focus, having focus, I should say, on a crime noir aesthetic and some themes. The first one is kind of like that as well. The villain in this movie, I don't know. I don't care about the villain. Like from what they showed us, it kind of just seems like your standard average cookie cutter villain. But it's going to be hard to top, Michael Wincott from the original 1994 film. It's very difficult to top Michael Wincott in anything. You can't beat that dude's raspy voice and the poise he had on film. You have to love it. This particular movie poises to captivate audiences that are, they're hoping are craving a more edgier and mature take on the source material. I don't quite know 100% like how that's going to play out, to be quite honest with you, because it's like when they say we want to do like edgier and more mature, and the original content that they're pulling from is not only a graphic novel, but a beloved cult classic that showed the, had the death of a real up and coming talent, with Brandon Lee. It's kind of difficult to like hedge all your bets on that, in my particular opinion. But this particular adaptation, reboot, reimagining, whatever you want to call it, has had a very long and very tumultuous journey to get back to the big screen, right? You got to remember that this whole thing started back in 2008 when the project was going to be reinvigorated. It went through multiple directors and writers and lead actors who were attached over the years. Like Lee Evans was attached at one point. I think that had to do with the fact that, he would have been a good Crow, but there's like Jason Momoa was also involved, to the point of where they were going to film the movie, but they ended up like backing out like a couple days into production or right before production began. I mean, there's been legal battles, creative differences, scheduling conflicts that all consistently derailed progress of trying to get The Crow remade. And like I said, like you had Jack Huston, Jason Momoa, there was the director Corn Hardy, who all left at varying parts of the production due to how bad it was, how crazy it was. Now Bill Skarsgård is at the helm of starring in this, and Sanders is directing it. And I don't know if I'd say fans are necessarily like, I don't know, some of the articles I was reading, at least the information I'm pulling from here, is saying that fans are cautiously optimistic that this version can finally break the development cycle, the cursed development cycle of the movie. But at the same time, my question then becomes, can it actually, like, is the cursed part of it the whole death of Brandon Lee? Or is it just as kind of how Hollywood is in regards to things going in and out of creative reboots or reimaginings or just different teams coming on in before something finally gets made? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's one of the things that's definitely an issue that I've noticed. But I do agree here with the concept that if executed well, we could see The Crow becoming maybe more contemporary in the space of graphic novel adaptations and comic book films in general. I mean, it's not to say that they haven't expanded on the universe. I mean, you had The Crow, then you had The Crow City of Angels, which is a weird movie. There was like the third Crow film, I think, that had Kirsten Dunst in it. And then there was a fourth Crow movie with Edward Furlong, John Connor in it. So I don't know if this movie could breathe new life into the franchise while still kind of like playing reverence to the beloved original's cult status. You know what I mean? I don't quite know if that's possible in any particular way, but it is one of the things where we have to think about like these reboots, right? Like, do we want it? That's kind of a question. You know, that's kind of a question. Like, do we want it? I agree with Perp here. Perp Minded here says, I'm sold on the movie, but that trailer did not need to be 3 minutes long. I was a little bit, you know, yeah, with that one, to be fair. I'm sitting down on my laptop. I'm getting ready to research today's show. The trailer pops up. I'm like, all right, 3 minutes is a bit long. And what they showed mostly was a lot of the violence. And the violence looks really cool. The violence looks like really cool, you know. But I also kind of wonder if it kind of like showed too much of the violence. Did it show all the cool scenes? Like, remember the opening, the first trailer we ever saw for like Atomic Blonde with her just kicking the crap out of those guys in the stairwell, and everyone really liked it. And the movie had a lot of good action scenes, but that was still really like the best one and the one that they led the marketing with. So when you finally saw the movie, you kind of already got the meat of the action right away. That is something that I'm not entirely too sure about in regards to like if that was the right call. But that being said, this does have my interest. I do want to see it, you know, and everything else. Let's see here. Music Man says, I looked at the comments on the trailer and they were shitting on this film. And he's like, it's not even out yet. Well, that's the whole point. They do this, right? Saulo here says the Crow reboot actually looks pretty good. Again, I agree. I was surprised with how much I enjoyed it. I was surprised with how much interest I had in it following that trailer. I went into it, not gonna lie, I went into it thinking this is going to be kind of crappy. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be fun. This is going to be like, do we need this again? And then no, like Bill Skarsgård's a good actor, man, you know, and like FK Twigs looked all right in the part. It was the villain though that like felt cookie cutter to me, right? It was the guy like the bad guy from Wonder Woman. I forget his name. He usually plays a villain in these movies, and it's like, is it like a drug thing, a mob thing? You know, like Michael Wincott. I got to rewatch the original Crow. It's been a long time, but I remember Michael Wincott in the role. You know, I remember, you know, him being the bad guy. And then, of course, there's the whole Brandon Lee death thing and everything else. And I'll definitely have to revisit those movies before this new one comes out, obviously. I'll sit through the Crow City of Angels. I'll tell you a quick story about that. When the Crow City of Angels came out, I wasn't 17. I think it was like 96, 97. So I was like 14, 15 years old at that point in time. And in Portland, they were doing they were giving away tickets for a midnight showing of the movie. And I loved seeing The Crow. And I really wanted to go see the Crow City of Angels. So I got up like at 6 in the morning and I was like a teenager, like 14, 15. Go and I jump on the city bus. I take it all the way to the other side of East Portland. I lived over in the suburbs, right? And I take it all the way over to the other side. I get there by 8 o'clock in the morning. By the time that they're opening up this little music store where they're giving away the tickets, and I get my hands on the screening passes. And then the only person I could take with me is my stepdad. I take my stepdad to go see this movie, and there's a part in the movie where like one dude is like in a sex show, and he starts beating off, right? And I was like, shit, you know, like, oh man, this is what kind of movie is this? And even my stepdad's like, what kind of movie did you drag me to? But this is a guy who like sat with me when I was a kid, and we watched like, you know, Aliens and Halloween and all these horror movies and stuff. But that was like, whoa, man, that's right. It was a little bit weird. It was a little awkward, that part of the movie. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think I've gone back to see it again. Like, that was just very uncomfortable for like a teenager to like, you know, like, again, masturbation, perfectly normal. No one's going to argue against that. But it's just kind of weird when you're sitting in a movie with like your stepdad and this guy. It's like, you know, it's not graphic, but it's very obvious what he's doing, you know, and you're like, ah. But anyway, it is just that Vince here says, what did I walk into beating off? I'm telling a story about fucking the Crow City of Angels, man. That's what happened. Eric here says, I'm cautiously optimistic. The trailer was okay. The original Crow is among my 10 favorite films. I still own the original soundtrack on CD and film on VHS. I wore out The Big Empty by STP. Yeah, well, STP is awesome. Rest in peace, Scott Weiland, obviously. But yeah, The Crow is going to be one that I think is going to be interesting.